phones are in a really interesting place right now. Battery tech is getting better, cameras are great on even the most affordable devices, and the days of rectangle after boring rectangle is beginning to change, which is why I was left a little disappointed with the Fold 7 launch. Hey, my name is Pete and I'll be your host for this video where we get to experience the Flip 7 and Fold 7 together. And look, I know, statistically speaking, you are probably not going to buy a foldable phone just because durability and pricing, but just stick with me because this year we've started to see some very big improvements to the design and kind of whole thing with the foldable phone. So just stick with me for this video.
This is what I say.
Okay, so very first thoughts and initial impressions on the Z Fold 7 and the Z flips and folds. So the Fold, very impressive, very thin, makes all the difference. Snapdragon 8 Elite, software feels great, the wider cover screen feels great. I will say I wasn't really paying much attention to the Flip information, and now having hands-on with the Flip, doesn't feel a huge amount of difference to the Flip 6. It's just as thick as the Flip 6, which is confusing because the Fold 7 is so much thinner. I kind of assumed they would do the same treatment to the Flip as they did to the Fold, so the Flip doesn't feel any thinner to me. And also the lack of chipset, so the Flip 7 is running the Exynos chip, not the Snapdragon chip, which is a bit of a disappointment. So I will say, for me, I feel like the Fold 7 is going to be the one this year for a lot of people, but with all the caveats, expensive phone, durability, all the usuals, but they've made some very significant improvements this year. First impressions?
Very thick. But that's the Fold 6.
Yeah, okay.
So
oh wow, yeah.
See, the difference there is just sort of
It's a huge difference. On the edge. Not far off the edge either.
It's the battle of the thinnables,
yeah,
now, isn't it? That's like the...
Oh, it is. That's the funnest game of all, though. Anything you're disappointed about?
Nothing yet. I've spent about 5 minutes with it, but I think just first impressions are that it's what I've wanted from the Fold for quite a long time now, I think, really. For me, though, it's the camera system. That needs to be a lot better.
Yep, okay.
To me, so theory, again, it's the similar specs to the S25 Ultra.
I like the wider cover screen. I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, but
Huge difference.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you think of the colours?
I like it, like the blue.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think blue is going to be the winner for this year,
Yeah.
for me. Please subscribe.
Yes.
This is the S25 Ultra, here is the S25 Edge, and this is the Fold 7. Also the Flip 7, but we'll get to that. Now, if you are a Fold 6 user, then it is way thinner, and in the hand, it actually makes a huge difference. I know it might not make sense if you haven't held a phone as thin as this before, but when it is as thin as this, you think it might feel flimsy or easy to break or something, but it is really built solidly. Low-key, love that they've got a MagSafe case this year, so this is going to be easy to snap onto the back of the Z Fold 7 and gives you MagSafe charging. So yeah, super interested in that one. Definitely going to get that. Like I mentioned, I'm also excited that the cover screen is now wider. I and many others have been asking for this for so many years. This makes it so much more usable daily. I could never really get used to that tall and slim candy bar size they used to have. Although it is a shame that it doesn't come with the anti-reflective display from the S25 Ultra, but I've actually just seen and have now ordered a separate anti-glare screen protector from Samsung to get that feature back, so hopefully that will do the job. Now, you can absolutely use the Z Fold 7 as if it was an S25 Ultra just day to day, but then open it up when you really want to use that extra space. Now, performance-wise, there is the Snapdragon 8 Elite, so I have zero doubt that this phone will perform great, but there is no silicon carbon battery. Yep, it is not silicon carbon, which I've had in the OnePlus 13 that I've been rocking since November last year. And there are other foldables available from brands like Honor, which are both thinner and pack a nearly 6,000 mAh silicon carbon battery. So for the Fold 7, that also means there are no other battery upgrades this year. There's no fast charging, still charges at like 25 watts like last year, and a much smaller battery, 4,400 mAh, than they could have squeezed in it were it silicon carbon. Now, stick around to find out how well that actually performs with daily use.
Genuinely, I'm not actually sure why. I've been told this is because they can't ship the quantities of silicon carbon batteries in planes for, the likes that Samsung and Apple will do. But it's confusing because the likes of OnePlus and Oppo and Honor, they're all shipping silicon carbon batteries. Perhaps not in the same quantities, but collectively together you would have thought they would be shipping a large quantity of phones. Yeah, I don't know, what do you think? I would prefer silicon carbon battery because you can get faster charging and you can get a better battery life as well, like higher capacity in a smaller form factor. So that is probably my one real only disappointment with this phone.
Oh, you might actually be wondering what I'm talking about here. So silicon carbon is a newer battery technology that means bigger battery capacity in a smaller physical size, which can also charge faster. Now, I've had it in my OnePlus 13 for the last 9-10 months, and it is such a good device with that slim battery and also paired with the same Snapdragon 8 Elite chip. But whilst other phones are using better battery technology, none of them are running One UI, which is by far one of the best flavors of Android that now has had 7 generations worth of development, whereas others are only on their 2nd or maybe 3rd generation. And although other Chinese brands have undoubtedly better hardware, this is the Honor Magic V5, which is the same as the Fold 7, but with a bigger battery, faster charging, and it's actually ever so slightly thinner than the Fold 7, but doesn't run One UI, which is one of the reasons many people buy a Samsung phone. Features such as being able to configure a different cover screen to what you see when you open it up, a multitasking system that out of the box works in pretty much all of the most popular apps. You can be chatting to someone on WhatsApp whilst watching a YouTube video or checking your emails, and I love that in the hand it feels almost like an S25 Ultra, but when I want to, open it up to enjoy that much bigger display.
Okay, so there is one bug, and I think it is a One UI bug rather than a Fold 7 bug. I've just got it in my car. I'm just about to switch it on. What sometimes happens is music now plays out of my... Music plays out of my phone rather than playing out of Android Auto. Weirdly, I had it just a moment ago, and when it skipped onto the next track, that then came out of the car. There's a weird issue, weird bug here. I'm pretty sure it's a One UI thing because I'm pretty sure I had this on the Edge, S25 Edge as well. Maybe it's the Ultra, maybe it was the OnePlus. I don't know, I'm losing count now, but there is something going on here. It's a software thing. It's going to get fixed, I believe, at some point, but for now, it's kind of annoying because every time I get out my car as well and go to walk away from my car, music starts playing from my pocket, so hey ho, one of those things.
Whilst a lot of people are happy to go without a case, these are very expensive phones. They literally cost the same as 2 freaking laptops. Now, SUPCASE kindly agreed to sponsor this portion of the video with a UB Grip and UB Pro cases, which are one way you can protect your Fold 7 this year. Their UB Grip case gives you a military grade protection with its full 360-degree shockproof cover, and it is basically a heavy duty protection for your very thin, very expensive device. Now, this case protects all of the important stuff. There is a shock-absorbing bumper, which has been drop-tested up to 20 feet, a built-in kickstand, cutouts to protect the cameras, and a tempered glass screen protector. And the Pro case has magnets in the back, which means you can use MagSafe chargers with this phone. So all in all, a solid case that will protect your, again, very expensive device from all the daily bumps and daily drops that just inevitably happen. And you can check them out in the video description down below. And a huge thank you to SUPCASE for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now, the initial setup was pretty painless. I transferred everything from my S25 Ultra to the Fold 7. Now, I always use a cable to do this just to make it as fast as possible, but it does still take a while to copy everything over. Then download, all the latest applications and updates, but at least it's just, a once and done situation. Oh, and also big shout out to 1Password once again for making it a breeze signing into my apps.
Now, I'm not going to spend much time talking about performance because we've got the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip, which, as we all know, is a very, very good chip for pretty much any device, any phone. It is a little bit disappointing with the Flip only has the Exynos chip in it, so I'm going to hold my reservations to see how well that actually performs in real life. But for now, at least performance-wise, literally no issues, no concerns whatsoever. It is like lightning fast, like pretty much any Snapdragon 8 Elite powered device, to be fair.
Actually, I'm going to jump in here. Basil from Tech Edit, who I met at Unpacked, was doing some testing, and it seems that the Exynos chip actually performs really well, especially in gaming, whereas the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip, well, not really the chip, but it does have some problems, which we will get to that, I promise. But first, cameras. The Z Fold 7 has the same 200 megapixel main camera sensor as the S25 Ultra, which is great since the majority of shots you will likely be taking will be with the main camera, but the telephoto and the ultra wide though are different and not as good as the S25 Ultra's cameras. And my thoughts are really divided here. On one hand, and I say this in nearly every video, you cannot buy a phone with a bad camera these days. In like 20 years time, when you look back on your photos, you're not going to care or even remember which phone took it. You'll remember the memories you captured and the fun, family experiences that you went on. On the other hand, this costs $2,000, like nearly £2,000. So you kind of want the best of the best for that kind of price. Oh, and my only one real annoyance with this phone is with the recessed power button that also doubles up as the fingerprint sensor. Because it is recessed, it takes a fair push, which when you want to, quickly snap a photo, can be kind of difficult to double tap to open up that camera. But that's really the only thing at the moment. Now, one thing I am glad to have is Gemini. After switching back and forth between phones this year, Gemini has been the one consistent, constant thing that is just a staple of Android right now. Sure, it's not perfect, but when the other side is struggling with, Gemini is solid. And whether you use the other AI features like translation, transcription, you can either take it or leave it when it comes to AI on this phone. And that is what I love about Android phones in general and their AI. If you don't use it, it doesn't get in the way. If you do use it, then it can be pretty incredible. You can remove crowds of people from photos with, again, very impressive results, or use Gemini Live to literally have a conversation about what you see. And this, in a world where Apple's assistant still can't even answer basic questions without issues. And even though Gemini is a Google feature rather than a Samsung feature, I love that it's accessible on every phone like Apple or Android, which means if you ever switch phones, switch devices, laptops, you can pick up conversations right where you left them. Although the one feature I'm still waiting on is Gemini on Android Auto. Kind of don't really understand why it's not been rolled out already, but it is coming soon, I'm told.
Very, very quick one. I have noticed on the Fold 7, when it's out and you're using it in the sunshine, it does dim fairly quickly. In fact, actually, with this footage you'll be able to see just now, the first shot was full brightness. You could see it very, very clearly. But literally the second shot over, you can see the screen instantly dimmed, and it makes it very, very difficult to see outside. So that's just something to keep an eye on. But it's also a very warm day, so it could be that it's got something to do with it.
And this is what I meant earlier about the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy. It is not a problem with the chip itself, but I think in the process of making the Fold 7 as thin as it is, it definitely seems to have affected the thermal management. Now, I will caveat this time of the year, it's a fairly solid 30 degrees Celsius outside, which is, I don't know, what's that in Fahrenheit? We'll put it on screen. And I've been taking a lot of photos, lots of videos, using Gemini Live, so definitely putting it through its paces. But I've not had this issue with the S25 Ultra before, and even any other phones. And I even hear rumors that the vapor chamber technology that keeps the S25 Ultra so cool and was present in the last year's Fold 6 might have been removed from the Fold 7 to make it as thin as it is this year. But again, I might be wrong. Speaking of which, it has been about a week now with the Z Fold 7, Z Fold 7? What are we calling it, Z or Z? I think it's Z in the UK here. So anyway, let's talk about the battery life now, because with a foldable device, let alone one that now has a larger screen, Battery is definitely my concern with the Fold 7. And I feel like I've been going through a few different stages with this phone. So here is me on day 2.
Battery life on this phone so far, we are 40% battery life at the moment. It's a very warm day, it's 30, 35 degrees at the moment. And we are down to 40% with 2.5 hours screen on time. So not a huge amount. It feels like I've used it a lot more than that, but I would say it seems to be draining fairly quickly. We're doing lots of photos, lots of videos, using the 200 megapixels, also getting a bit warm whilst I'm shooting the photos at 200 megapixels. So yeah, it's reasonable, it's okay.
And then here is me again on day like 7, maybe day 8.
Although, having said that, we are currently at 48% battery, and I've had 3 hours and 17 minutes of on time, so pretty much 50% battery use, 3 hours, almost 3.5 hours usage. So that's almost 6.5, 7 hours of screen on time on the Fold, which is pretty impressive considering I've used the inner screen most of today. The main difference is that we've had a few days of battery optimization kicking in, and also I haven't been using this in the direct sun like I did in New York and Brooklyn, so there is that. But so far, actually, having said what I just said, pretty impressed with the battery life. Nice.
And like I said, my use case so far has been fairly heavy duty, and the more I use this phone, the better the battery life seems to get. Typically, it does get me through a full day, but it is cutting it very close sometimes before I go to bed. So I do usually end up topping up the charge when I can during the day, you know, just to be safe. And again, shout out to SUPCASE, as their cases have the MagSafe ring, which means I can charge easily whilst I'm at my desk. But I am definitely left feeling like upgrading to a silicon carbon battery would have been the move to make this year. Again, I don't really know why. Maybe they're keeping something in their pocket for next year's Fold 8, or maybe there are even more thermal management issues to deal with, so only time will tell. And whilst we are talking about hardware, having an IP48 rating when spending almost twice the price of a regular phone, I don't know. IP48 means it can be submerged in water, which is pretty solid for a foldable, but that 4 means that this isn't something to take to a sandy beach, or you just risk turning your, very expensive phone into a crunchy game of will it, won't it work today? Especially also as water damage still isn't covered by warranty, and in many cases, and that includes other brands, I'm not just picking on Samsung here. Oh, and I'm also going to mention this because sometimes people like to know, but I also know sometimes people really couldn't care less. But because the phone is so thin and the camera bump is kind of prominent on it, it is impossible to use when flat on the table unless you open it all the way up, because it just bumps and rolls around far too much. Contactless payments work really well on the Fold 7. Now, I've complained before about how sensitive the NFC reader is on the S25 Ultra, but literally no issues whatsoever with the Fold 7. I rode the subway, paid for an incredible steak, egg and chips breakfast, and bought my kids some small gifts at the airport. No issues, great experience. Oh, and also, Samsung Wallet has come a long way since I last used it, so for now, I've stuck with using that over the Google Wallet. But then we do have the elephants in the room. $2,000 for a folding phone. You could buy a 14-inch MacBook Pro with 1 terabyte of storage for less than a Z Fold 7. Or you could buy 2 MacBook Airs, or you could buy 2, possibly even 3 flagship non-foldable phones. This is just why I can't see many people spending that sort of money on a phone unless it is very heavily discounted or subsidized by network providers, maybe discounted by Samsung. Pricing is really the thing here. Like, most people are not going to spend the best part of $2,000 or even over $2,000, depending on the spec and model you buy, on a phone, which for now still makes foldables a very niche product that not many people are going to buy. But if you take price out of the conversation, foldable phones are actually starting to get good. And right now, I'm going to continue to use the Fold 7 as my main device to see how durable it really is. Sure, there are still drawbacks. It would be nice to see some of the missing features from flagship non-foldable phones, IP68, 69 ratings, better battery with faster charging at a minimum. But for the right person who is interested in a foldable phone, Samsung, I think, actually has the most compelling overall package so far this year.
Take it.